Yo, what's good, everybody? It's your boy Billy. We back at it again. Another week, another sample tutorial. This week, we're gonna take a look at how I would make a K1 or Summer Walker type sample. Really want to kind of reminisce something from K1's Back of the Club and Summer Walker's No from her latest album. Let's go ahead and get into it. So I was pretty much playing around with a couple different riffs, and I landed on this one for my guitar. Let's go ahead and take a listen to it. So I really wanted to imitate that 90s vibe with this nylon guitar. Let's go ahead and take a look at the chords that I laid on top of it using this Rhodes. First, we're starting off with a G minor ninth to a C minor ninth, down to a C diminished seventh. We're repeating those three chords, or those two chords. And just like in that 90s fashion, we're going into a D major to an A sharp augmented, and then landing on a F major. And that takes us back to our G minor ninth. All right, so let's walk it back. The guitar sound I'm using is from Omnisphere, the flamenco guitar. Let's take a look at the settings for it. Just throwing on an EQ. Then I went ahead and put it in UAD's Sound City Studios, remic mode, the acoustic guitar setting, and I just kind of tweaked with these closing room settings here. Then I threw in a EP tape echo and finally just compressed that sound. All right, so for the chords that I'm using on top of my guitar, I'm using this Omnisphere preset as well as this Analog Labs preset. So this one is just a pad. And then this is my actual Rhodes. And the settings for my pad, I'm just EQing this low mid section out and throwing on a doubler. And for my Analog Labs Rhodes, also just taking out the low mids. Again, putting this one through Sound City Studios and using a compressor. So let's go ahead and take a listen to the core sound of this sample, which is my guitar and my chords. All right, so moving to some of the other elements, I really want to set the stage with some thunder sound, this SFX from Splice. You know, any classic R&B song, you know, you got some rain and some thunder in the background. Also want to throw in this violin drone. And for the preset for my thunder sound, I'm just taking out the highs from it. And then for my drone sound, I'm just compressing it down just so you don't hear too much. I just really want it to be a background element. For this sample, I wanted to throw in some violins on top of the kind of string drone sound. Let's take a listen to the violins. And for this one, I'm also routing it through Sound City Studios on the ballad strings preset, and I'm also throwing a compressor on here. All right, another element of this sample is this kind of synth pad sound that I got from Splice. I don't know, it just really felt really nostalgic, really 90s vibe, something like Brandy might have in one of her songs or something like that. And you'll kind of hear it in the full context later on. Another element we got going on here is our vocal samples. All right, so it's pretty much a chopped vocal sample from Splice. Putting it through UAD's Sound City Studios again, EQing the low mids and the mids out, compressing the sound, putting on a flanger doubler from UAD, and then lastly throwing on an EP echo. All right, so moving on to the bass of the sample, I didn't want to do a bass guitar or an 808, just want to keep it like a synth bass, so I'm using this sound from Analog Lab, see what it sounds like. All right, so for my bass mixer channel, I'm just throwing on a compressor, adding on some Pultec, and lastly throwing on some R bass. So real simple. Just want to kind of start the layering for the bounce that I'm gonna kind of add in with the drums. And speaking of drums, let's go ahead and take a listen to what they sound like. Moving on to some of the sound effect stuff that I have going on here, just kind of this bass slide, and then chimes going in. And one of the last elements that I added to the sample was this sound here from Analog Labs. Really wanted to add it as kind of like an outro type of sound. And I'm not really doing anything either for the mixer on this one, just lowering it down, bringing it within volume to the mix. All right, so for my mixer track, just EQing out the very low end, just so I have a place for my bass to sit, throwing on this SSLG bus compressor, and I'm actually putting on sound shifter to lower the entire sample down by 3 semitones. For my master channel bus, throwing on a Pultec EQ, an SSLG bus compressor, throwing on an L2 limiter, lastly, a parametric EQ and the Fruity Soft Clipper. So with all those elements, let's go ahead and take a listen to the final product. All right, this is this week's sample tutorial. Let me know what you guys want to hear in the next one. It's been your boy Billy. I'm out.